This should be like Boys to Men.
What does that mean? I don't get it.
So hard
Lord.
to say goodbye to yesterday.
Okay.
The Tesla got to go back, y'all. It's great, but then you can just see, like, first of all, the build quality is just, it's not up to par. Every time I was driving and I hit bumps, you always hear something kind of just, you know, whether it's the seats not bolted all the way in.
That's scary.
I think the biggest thing that I did not like is the transit time, because you got to charge for another 35, 45 minutes. And then when you get to that place, I'm still at the end of my battery. That's the stuff that drove me nuts.
Yeah.
But it's going back.
All right.
All right.
You're on.
You're on. We on. Yo, what's good, everyone? It's Dr. Nii, host of Docs Outside the Box, your favorite trauma surgeon, your neighborhood trauma surgeon.
This is alive. Like,
I know. Who are you?
I'm Dr. Renee. That's it. That's all they need to know.
What do you do?
They will find out. Stay on and you'll find out.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm an OBGYN.
Are you?
Yes.
Okay.
I better be, because I played one in the hospital this weekend.
Speaking of such, I need your timesheets.
Oh, please.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yo, how's everybody doing? We got how many people? We got like 4 or 5 people on Instagram. I'm not sure how many people are seeing us on YouTube, but shout out to everybody on YouTube. Shout out to everybody on Facebook. Shout out to everybody on Instagram. We here. We live. It's hot as hell down here in this basement. It's hot as hell on the East Coast. I don't know how it is for everybody else in the rest of the country, but it is hot, 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 hot.
Yeah. That was a heat wave.
I think we're still going through it.
Well, no, it was cooler today.
It's going to be in the mid-90s again tomorrow.
Oh, my God.
But
somebody.
Yeah. It is what it is. But the cool thing is our kids, they're off to camp. We got them Rugrats to camp. Which means we got our daytimes to pod again, which is the most important thing. Yo, y'all. So our youngest, we pulled out of preschool and we're homeschooling him. Mm-hmm. And now that the school year is done, he's getting ready for kindergarten, but we have him in a camp before, obviously we start kindergarten. But like, I miss having that like 10 o'clock to, and I'm sure you really miss that 10 o'clock in the morning till like 2 o'clock of just some sanctity in the house.
Some sanctity.
I just leave it like that.
Yeah.
Some sanctity. So them kids are in camp, and them camps ain't cheap.
No, camps are extremely expensive.
And for what they do, though, not the youngest, but for the most part, for what these camps do, I don't know. I don't know if we're getting the return on investment, unless the time of just having time off is worth it.
Exactly. You're paying to basically get your kids out of the house. Right? Like that's what you're paying for. Uh-huh. Right? Get my kids out of the house. And they're like, I will oblige if you pay me, thousands of dollars.
Well, that's not how much we're paying though.
Yeah, we are paying thousands.
Well, for one of them, but this youngest is getting some special services. That's why.
Yeah, but even the oldest we're paying thousands of dollars. What do you think?
Thousands of dollars?
Yes.
Oh man. That's a bad deal.
What's a bad deal? Who got kids in camp right now? That's what I want to know.
Oh,
who
Brittany's
has
on.
Kids in camp?
We love the Darkos.
And how much is your camp?
Right, BYC. If you love the Darkos, I hope you download our episodes. Give us a thumbs up.
I want to know who got your kids in camp and how much is camp.
Actually, what I want to know is, so what we just said, is that sharing too much? What is sharing too much?
Well,
because
wait. Before that, let me just, I know where you're going to go with this, but before that, I wanted to share something on the feed really quickly that sums up basically what it's like to have 2 boys.
Okay, go ahead.
I really want to, because there is a comedian who, he talks about having 2 boys and what it's like. Hold on. Now, because I got my Instagram feed open, I got to go back to another Instagram page. But he talks about what it's like having 2 boys. And I listened to this thing and I was like, yeah, this is exactly what it's like having 2 boys. Hold on a second. I think his name is Tom Segura. And
Tom Segura.
Seguro.
I've heard of him.
Is Segura or Seguro? Yeah. Here he is. Okay. So I'm going to share first. I always share a screen. Let me share our screen first. Shoot. Now I don't know which one is which.
I think you select one.
There it is. So.
And 3, and they are boys, like real he, hims, if you know what I'm saying. Luckily, I have a cousin that lives near me, and he has 2 girls the same age, 6 and 3. And these girls come over to my house. My God, what did I do wrong where I didn't get girls? These girls, they show up and they're like, hello, Uncle Tommy. And they go, we would like to color. And they sit down and they fucking color. An hour later, I can go into that room and they're like, where are my boys? Are they in the house? Are they on the house?
That's it?
No, it's more, but something's going on with the Wi-Fi. But yeah, he talks about having 2 boys, and I'm like, this is exactly what it is, right? Because at the end, he goes, if I put my 2 boys in the room to color, I come back and they're like, we broke the crayons and we put them in the mailbox. And I'm like,
The ceiling fan is broke.
right.
The window
Something's
doesn't
broken.
open.
Something is broken.
And somebody might need to go to the hospital.
Yes.
Someone may
inevitably.
need to go to the hospital.
Inevitably. So that's what, that I just wanted to.
I didn't get that. I didn't understand until like we took our boys out on play dates or took our boys out to other places and you see girls. It's true. Girls mature faster.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're out, like it's just like these boys they crazy.
Yeah.
You know, like they're all over the place. They're like, you know, obviously boys are just more physical for the most part. Boys are more physical than girls are. But I agree. Girls can sit there, concentrate on a topic for like an hour and maybe not even an hour. Just concentrate for 15 minutes.
Yep.
Actually, just concentrate for 5 minutes. You know, but our boys, 30 seconds and that's it. They out. If you know what I mean, just leave something in the chat. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
So when we say like, yo, these kids are in camp.
They someone else's problem now.
There's someone else's. They can go break somebody else's crayons.
Yep.
They could be on somebody else's roof.
Yep.
They could put stuff in somebody else's mailbox.
Yes.
At least from 9 to 3.
Don't call me. Don't call me with no issues, no allergies. Y'all know what to do. Y'all been in here in the past. There's a hospital that's not too far away. Just let me know.
You have our insurance card number.
Just let me know if they get admitted. That's it.
That's all. That is all. So that's all I had to say about boys in camp and putting them.
But we get our time back though. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Just for a short period of time. Right. But we get our time back so that we can pod back in the daytime. And just so y'all know, if y'all parents, you know what I'm talking about. Podding at the end of the day when you put your kids away.
Tired.
That's tiring. Because by the time they go to bed, you're tired. You want to fall asleep. Or you just want to watch something on Netflix, chill, have a glass of wine, and then just go to bed.
Look at my face.
That's it.
Look at my face.
Yeah, you look like you've been
Look
through it.
at my face. Look at my face.
You look like you've been through it. You may have to turn that off.
So,
I'm happy for y'all. I hope they have a great time at camp. I don't care as long as they're at camp.
I do care.
Someone wrote, I'm happy for y'all. I hope they have a great time at camp. I don't care.
Yeah.
From 9 until 2 o'clock or 2:15.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. Don't call me. They good. It's your problem.
Anywho.
It's their problem.
So
what I wanted to talk about in this situation is we talked about how our youngest, we took him out of preschool because we felt like it just wasn't a good match between him, his personality, and being in a class that's like 20, 25 kids. Wasn't doing well.
Right.
And it got me thinking because there was something that happened earlier this week where I'm like, what is sharing too much?
Okay.
Right? What's the line between me and you in terms of what we share and sharing too much between me and you and then we becoming like Will and Jada.
We ride together.
We die together.
Bad marriage for life.
Where they share everything and to the point where you're just like, I don't want to hear from y'all anymore, right?
That daggone Nii and Renee, I don't want to hear from them anymore.
Oh, man. Right? But we were there at some point with them, right?
I was like, we were there?
No. But
Will and Jada
but the
were
question
there.
is what is our line? Because this week we found out like a famous football player, his wife went on a podcast and she shared that she shared that when they were dating in college, she was clapping cheeks with the backup.
You stay classy.
Is that too graphic? Okay, excuse me. She was dating
I mean,
she was dating the
that's
backup.
saying a little too much, Nee.
She was dating the backup on purpose, she admitted. On purpose, just to get that guy jealous. Now listen, like, you know us, we don't comment on other people's relationships, but when you share so much, it's almost like what, first of all, my question is what is your point of sharing that much?
That's a question.
Why are you sharing that much?
That's a question.
2, what are you trying to accomplish? And then you think about this, like, you didn't think that this would bother your man? Like, he plays football in one of the most masculine sports where they use anything and everything to gain an advantage over you. Like, that's the part where I'm just like, I don't know, man.
So
It sounds like sabotage to me.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say shout out to Pedrito Roca, who says, after 9 years at MFM and after following your podcast, I'm doing Locums and loving it.
Good job. Good job. It's about time.
Awesome. Awesome. Congratulations.
Our consulting fee is in the mail. Pedrito, listen, how long have you doing Locums for? And give us a little insight on like where you're doing Locums at. So.
Yeah. So to answer the question of what is that sharing too much, right? Like,
we know that that's sharing too much, but what is the line between us? Like, what do you use on the podcast to determine, okay, this is too much and not too much?
I would say anything that I think would.
We'll pay it. Word.
Pedrito.
Pedrito? You gonna pay?
You gonna pay the consulting fee?
Okay.
Get out of here. So I think anything that would essentially sound like it serves to embarrass the other person, right? Like if I said something that, I was sharing and there was no other point for me to share this thing other than just to say it. And it's something that I know is a sensitive topic for you. And that would be not just embarrassing, because embarrassing is one thing, right? Like publicly that's embarrassing, but hurtful, right? Something that's hurtful.
But
because there's no way
what's
that
hurtful to you may not seem hurtful for me. So, but I'm not saying that excuses anything, but I'm just saying like for real, like you may just be like, oh, I'm just sharing. Like she may have just been like, I'm just going to share this and just kind of talk about it because I'm talking with friends. Because, podding, when people are podding and they're podcasting, people tend to get comfortable.
Right.
Or there appears to be a sense of, let me try to be as sensational as possible and go from there. The way in which she was talking, I watched an extended version of it. She was real comfortable. That host did a really good job of making her feel comfortable. And not to say that she set the trap, but the podcast host made her mad comfortable so that she could feel comfortable sharing that. So what I'm saying between me and you is, you may look at it as, because we've had these arguments before, or we had it out where I'm like, yo, like you think that's funny, but to me, that's not funny. Like I got a problem with that. So how do you know? Because it seems as though you're saying, well, you got to know as the other spouse.
You do. I mean, it's kind of your job right? As a spouse to keep learning, to keep learning about your spouse, right? Like that's your job. I mean, I think if you don't know, there's a disconnect somewhere where you're saying something to someone, or you're saying something about someone, or you're saying something to your spouse, and at some points, there's got to be topics that are hurtful.
So should you talk about this before?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think this is something that you say, listen, if this topic should come up, should I go down that road and talk about it? Right? Because it's not like a fly-by-night thing. It's like they had to have had this discussion before. But at the same time, if he was like, I don't really care.
So do you have, do you have a line? Do you have a line?
Of course I have a line.
Okay, so question is, what if, because a lot of times, like, I may not know exactly what your line is. You may not know exactly what my line is. But what if I cross the line on the show? Do you let me know while on the show? Do you stop the show? Do you edit it out? Talk to me about that.
So let's say we were on this live right now.
Yes, and I brought up something that was cross your line, which I don't know.
I'd be like, you doing too much?
See, but you're still keeping it kind of funny.
I'd say you doing too much. But if I say you doing too much, you would know. You should know me enough at this point
I feel like we should have like a safe word.
To
Is that,
stop.
is that your safe theme?
That's the safe word. That's the safe word. That's the safe phrase. You do it too much. Don't go there, Nii. Don't do it. Don't do it.
So, for example, like on what podcast is that? The one with SNMA, The Pulse.
Mm-hmm.
Right? On that podcast, we were talking about getting ready for the SNMA conference, which that was a great podcast.
Yes.
I like that. But recently on that, I shared that prior to us getting married, there was some infidelity on my part there, right? Or I alluded to it. I didn't specifically say that, but I alluded to that. But it's very clear. But it's very clear, right? Yeah. What that was. And that for me was that was a big block, a big hurdle, something that I didn't feel like sharing that. Mm-hmm. When I mentioned it, you didn't have an issue with it, but I could tell you were kind of treading lightly on that too.
Because I think at this point, it's not something that, so for me, I'm like, well, we're married now, right? So obviously, while we were dating, this was something that, we had gone through. And so I'm kind of over that particular hurdle, right?
But if the public started saying certain things, let's say they're not true, but they started making light of it and so forth, is that our fault for putting it out there on front street?
Well, yeah. I mean,
right?
once you put something out, now it's fodder for everybody, right? To be like, whatever. Like, it's out there for anybody to say.
That's how I feel. Once you put it out there on the internet, that's it.
It's it.
It doesn't belong to you anymore.
Right.
It belongs to the internet.
Exactly.
And whatever
you
comes
put it out
back,
there.
whatever energy comes back.
Comes back.
That's it.
And then that's the end of it.
But it's just, I feel like nowadays with podcasting, like there is a race to like sensationalize everything, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you're going to say something, then say it with your chest, right? Or, just speaking about filling your cup is not good enough anymore. Like you got to like, even as a football wife, now you got to say, yo.
You got to smell the roses.
I was dating the backup, and.
Well, I mean, there's something, so I will say this.
Because she didn't have to say, she could have said like we had our ups and downs, and things like that.
She could have even said
this, a little bit of that. You know what I'm saying?
She could have even said, right? Like we weren't exclusive, right? And we weren't mutually exclusive. I stepped out, he stepped out. She could have said,
but she didn't step out though.
Well, she did. You said she was dating the backup quarterback.
They were not dating. She didn't cheat. She just said that when they were not together.
Gotcha. That she was dating that guy just to make him jealous so that hopefully he would then look at her and be like...
Correct. And it worked.
Whatever. Okay, well. Okay, fine. So, I mean, if that's the case... So if that's the case, I thought you were saying that she cheated with this guy. I misunderstood that. If that's the case, then... No, I don't know if it's sharing too much. What I might say is sharing too much is if she starts comparing the two.
She did.
Okay, well then
because she was saying that her current husband, who the football player is, he's very like Southern gentleman, gentle, nice. He's a gentleman. All these different things. Whereas that guy was, he's a bad boy. He had this, this energy about him that, all these different things that in essence was like a backhanded compliment to her husband. That's the way I looked at it. Right.
I mean, I don't know that I would go around comparing, especially publicly, but comparing, people that I've dated and, and saying, well, my husband is this, but this guy is that. And first of all, I don't even know if I remember, what someone was like when I dated them. I think the only time that I would remember is if someone was like if I had like a traumatic experience with that person. Like other than that, I'm like, I don't remember what we did.
There's a bunch of people listening like she bullshitting.
I'm not. I don't.
She bullshitting. I'm not gonna go in there. You doing too much. You doing too much.
I'm not saying anything.
You doing too much.
I said I don't even.
You doing too much.
That's the safe phrase.
That's not my safe phrase. I'm just fucking with you.
But I don't know. I'm like, the fact that she's comparing. I don't know. It would just, for me anyway, that would make me feel uncomfortable. Right? That would make me feel uncomfortable. But I mean, if her husband doesn't care that she was even dating this guy, because he obviously doesn't care because he married her, then who cares?
I mean, in essence, who cares? That's the whole point.
Who cares?
What do y'all think?
Was she doing too much? Let's see what Dr. Pedrito Roca said about
Well, no, if
doing
you could just go right here and just hit show.
Okay.
Just hit show.
Oh, I see here. So
Okay, so Pedrito says, thanks so much. After 9 years at MFM and after following your podcast, I am doing locum and loving it.
yep. And then we asked them, let me see. Okay, here. So locum since January 2024.
So the beginning of this year, he's been doing locums.
In South Bend.
And everybody,
South Bend is in
Indiana.
Indiana, right?
So hold on, before we move on, everybody, locums, remember, is basically you're an independent contractor. You are a doctor that works for yourself. So you are not employed by anybody. You're not employed by the hospital. You don't work for the hospital. Mm-hmm. You don't work for a private practice. You are basically just selling your services to a hospital. Yeah. You work there, and then at the end, when you're done, you submit maybe a timesheet, you submit an invoice, and they pay you. And then when they pay you the entire amount. There's nothing taken out for taxes. And then you, as a contractor, have to figure out all your tax situation and things like that. I love it. We've been working like that for 7 years. And yeah, that's what he is. He's a locum tenens.
Which brings us to our
Wait, hold on. What else we'll go back to his other comments? My wife found your podcast and also loves it. She is the CEO.
Oh, that brings us to our next topic.
Okay, go back to the next one. He says, goes without saying, I was a little scared about doing locums, but both of you had given us courage to do it. Thanks so much.
Yay.
I'm glad we gave you the liquid courage.
I'm drunk, so what? Beautiful, I'm drunk.
Or the audio courage to go ahead and do it, because once you do it, you ain't gonna go back. Yo, I did it. I did it. When I finished fellowship, when I finished training at University of Miami, I did locums for a year and a half based off of your recommendation. I loved it. And then I was like, yo, we got to get a job. We got a job. And I won't say I hated it, but I felt cramped and it wasn't for me.
You hated it at the end. I'll say that.
And since 2017, we've been on our own. Pure 100% locums, independent contractor, and we ain't going to do it if we don't have to. So, Pedrito, you can do this. Now, the question is, when you're doing it, though, are you doing it just as OB? Are you doing OB-GYN? Are you
No, he's doing MFM.
So you can do MFM as locums?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, you can do MFM locums.
Awesome.
Everybody needs locums. Everybody. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which leads us to our next topic.
What's the next topic?
Am I Dr. Renee's boss?
Pedrito, you said that your wife was your boss. Your CEO, excuse me.
I think I am your boss.
You'd like to be.
Yeah.
You're doing too much.
That's your safe word. Where's my timesheets?
Anyway.
Where's my timesheets? I need those timesheets.
I will give you a timesheet.
I need the timesheets.
I will give you the timesheet.
Because this place takes a while to pay. So I really need those timesheets.
You will get the timesheet.
Okay.
Tonight.
Thank you.
Okay.
How are you going to do the timesheets? Tell them how you're going to do the timesheets.
So,
and why do we need the timesheets? You let them know.
Okay. So after every locums assignment.
I should have my tally thing.
After every locums assignment, what we do is we create a timesheet, right? The reason we create a timesheet is basically for documentation. So we own our own locums company, if you will, right? So our locums company employs us. And so to keep things on the up and up and to keep the documentation the way it's supposed to be, we create a timesheet. From that timesheet, we're able to decipher how many hours were worked, so how many hours of, depending on how it's set up. So how many hours of base pay, how many hours of backup pay, how many hours per shift. So it really depends on how we're working, where we're working, what the contract is set up for us to work, in that way. Once we get the timesheet, then we're able to create the invoice for the hospital. So that helps us to keep everything in line. Because if you just create an invoice for the hospital, but you don't have a timesheet, then if there's a question on that invoice, you're not going to have a timesheet. You're not going to be able to have a breakdown of where you got that number on the invoice. And so you need to be able to know where you got that number on the invoice before you send it to the facility. Once the facility gets the invoice, that's their trigger to then pay you.
Yeah, I think most places, most situations, most specialties, the way in which you charge is based off of how many hours you worked or how many days you worked, or basically there's a time, the amount of time that you put in, right? Not the output, but the amount of time that you put in,
Right.
that gets charged, right?
Right.
So, like a plumber, a little bit different of a plumber. A plumber will say, well, I use this type of equipment, and then I also, and I put this amount of time, and then this is the total bill, right? It's kind of similar, but it's not. Whereas with Renee, it's like, well, she worked from Friday evening until Monday morning, and she needs a form that says she worked from Friday evening until Monday morning.
Yeah.
We don't need to know how many babies she delivered.
Right.
We don't need to know, whatever else she did clinically.
Right.
All we need to know is that she
That
needs
I
to
was
sign it.
available I was available and present.
And then
when I
from
was
there,
supposed to be.
from there, we use something called Wave. Some of you may use QuickBooks, whatever it may be. And then in there, we type in the hours, and then it calculates and spits out an invoice.
Yeah.
And then the other thing in the invoice, we put in how many miles did she drive from her house straight to the hospital, around the hospital, and then back. And all of that stuff is charged as a reimbursable expense.
Yeah. And then
Right.
the lodging.
And then the lodging, the hotel, we keep the receipts. We put that on the invoice and be like, yo, we want to get paid for that. And then that gets sent to the hospital. So the hospital gets an invoice. They get a timesheet, and then they get all the receipts, right? So if we're doing gas, or if we're doing a hotel, or if we're doing, whatever it may be that we need receipts for that we want reimbursed, we submit that. And then several weeks later, we get a check either in the mail or we get a direct deposit. And then that's how we get paid as a company. Right?
Right, as a
That's how we get
company.
paid as a company.
Yeah.
And then from there.
Wait, so it's important to know, right, when we say we get paid as a company, right? So Dr. Renee worked her OB shift from Friday until Monday. But the check doesn't come to Dr. Renee. The check comes to the
Dr.
name.
Darko.
No, it doesn't.
Because of Dr. Darko Incorporated.
No, that's not the name of the company. But the check comes to the name of the company. And so our company is the one that gets paid. So we don't get paid directly as the individuals.
Correct.
Our company gets paid, even though we own the company. But our company is the one that gets paid. And then
from there, the company pays me as if I'm a W-2 like employee.
Right.
And then the same thing for Renee.
Right.
And we get a check in the mail, or we get a direct deposit. And by the end of the year, there's a W-2 that gets mailed to us or gets emailed to us. And when it's time for us to do our taxes, we submit a W-2 like anybody who is employed. It's just that our employer says
Is us.
our company name, and then it has all the information for us. So there's some hoops that you have to jump through with that. But I'm gonna tell you right now, if I don't have to be employed again directly by a hospital, I will not do it. I prefer working this way. I love it this way. Dr. Renee, if you want to talk about why you like it.
I mean, I just like the freedom of my schedule. That's what I.
So how do you work? Tell them how you work.
So I work 1 weekend a month, sometimes 2 weekends a month. On occasion, I'll work 2 weekends a month. My preference, depending on where I am, but right now my preference for this particular hospital is to work from Friday evening until Monday morning. That just works for me, just at this particular facility.
I don't like doing that.
Well, but at this particular facility, that works for me. It doesn't work at every facility, because the last facility I was working at, it didn't work for me.
Okay.
So I didn't work like that. The last facility I worked at, my availability that I gave to them was that I'm willing to do 3 12s, on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay.
So I was willing to do 3 12s and then come back on Monday morning. So I would still do a weekend, but it was just a different type of shift. Again, it's just based on the hospital that I'm working at and just the dynamics at the hospital.
Some places you could do 12-hour shifts, or so 12 hours in-house, and then you do another, or you do 12 hours shift, and then that's it, you're off.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of relaxing, and then you go back and hit it again.
Yeah.
Is that like that's the typical OB hospitalist type model, right?
Yeah, I would say that either the 12 or the 24-hour shift, but something in intervals of 12. Yeah.
And you've been working like this since 2017. Got a question for you. What is the worst part about working for yourself?
The worst part about working for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh,
And you can't say that I'm your boss.
You're not my boss, Nee. You're not my boss. How would you, first of all, before I answer that question, how would you be my boss?
I'm just joking. I'm not your boss.
I know, but like that's the question that you put.
But somebody's like, but it's a joke, like because I'm hounding you for a timesheet, like as if like I'm middle management, or
exactly.
That's the reason.
So the worst part. That's the reason why I'm saying the worst part. Thank you.
Middle management.
Thank you.
Hey,
the worst part about working for myself is
having human resources.
Is basically
everything starts
having
and stops
to come
with me.
home to talk to management, which is you. Okay, that's what it is.
Middle management.
Okay, I set this up real good, and you answered real good. So
I am the middle. I am the middle management. That's right.
You're the middle management. Yes.
So that's the worst part.
That's the worst part. No, actually, I don't know. The worst part, oh God, of working for myself. I mean, so I do the work. You tend to do all the administrative stuff. Yes. So I don't have to deal with the administrative stuff. I've done administrative stuff before, but we've kind of got a system going where it works really well with me, just working and then you doing administrative stuff. So I actually don't have, any gripes about working for myself. Because all I do is just work. I only just do the work, right? I just show up. What about you?
For me, the worst part is the quarterly tax planning, the end of year type thing, like that stuff. So, me invoicing, I have no problem with. It's the making sure that the bookkeeping is going on, making sure that, like the proper tax documents are filled out. And there's apps that do this for you, which is what we do.
Right.
But to me, sometimes that could be a little hectic. There's the meetings of how much taxes we owe or how much we are getting back. Like certain things that are like really big decisions that sometimes I'm like, this stuff could be really high level, but I don't like that part.
Right.
But also at the same time, it's not that I don't like it enough to say like, I don't want to deal with this anymore, and that I want to go and be employed. That's never going to be the case. Right. So it's just one of those things that I just got to figure out and deal with, because there's no such thing as a perfect world. Like you have to figure out something, right? So figure out what you don't like or what you do like. Find some happy place, which is what I've found. And I'm like, look, I deal with this on a quarterly basis, and definitely at the end of the year, and then I kind of move on and go from there. Yeah. So that for me is the part that I don't like. But I'll just be honest with you. I'll keep it a buck. It's not enough to make me move away. It's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Me either. Considering I'm not doing it.
The one thing that I think folks need to know that I would like for you to talk about is the follow-up, right? What's it like? Like you're taking care of people for 2.5 days, 3 days. What happens when you leave? Like, aren't these your patients?
No.
How does how does that work then?
So first of all, I just want to say, unless you are literally in your own private practice that you own, like the idea of your patients in terms of I don't want to say ownership because I don't really like that word, but I will use that word in lieu of a better word. But ownership,
in lieu,
yes, in lieu, ownership of your patient load is not really a thing anymore, right? Because if you work at a hospital, right? If you're employed by a hospital, yeah, those are your patients in that those are the patients that you are encountering. But when you leave, you're not able to be like, hey, I'm going to work at the hospital up the street. You should come with me. Because the hospital will say, that is our patient. That is not your patient.
So if you were to go up the street, you'd have to develop a whole new
right.
The patients, you'd have to start advertising and
from
developing
scratch.
a whole new bunch of patients because those patients can't come with you.
Right. Well, they can if they want to, but you cannot solicit those patients.
Right. And the hospital will do everything they can to make sure that those hospitals don't follow you and stuff.
Absolutely.
Got you.
So,
So they're not your patients.
So they're never your patients, right? And so that was one of the things that I had to reconcile in my mind before.
Was that hard?
No, that actually wasn't. No, I will tell you it wasn't hard because it didn't make a difference, right? If I worked at a hospital, short of me setting up my own practice, which I didn't want to do. So the only other option for me if I wasn't doing locums was to be employed. But I end up in the same boat because those patients are not my patients.
So when you left, because I think it's easy to say when you work as a locums, you already have in your mind that I'm in, I'm out, go from there. But when you were you were never private practice, but when you had your own clinic,
employed.
when you had your own clinic, even though you were working at a hospital, did you feel like kind of like these were like your patients?
So, okay. So I'm talking about the technical side.
Right.
As far as the relationship that I have with patients.
Look at Renee kind of clean it up. She's
I'm
going to try to clean it up.
This is what it is, right? Because
I love all of my patients. Go ahead.
Would you Barry White in right now? Like, I don't understand.
I'm podding right now.
Okay. So,
guys, who has the better voice?
Anyway.
I think I do have the better voice. I think my voice carries better.
Great.
Between the Sheets hour.
Oh, my Lord.
Go ahead.
So, as far as the relationship that I have with patients, yeah, I always feel that connection to patients, right? So if we're talking about the technicality of are these your patients, it's like, well, no, technically none of these patients are technically my patients that I can solicit and have interactions in exactly the way that I want, even if I'm not going to be at that particular hospital anymore, right? Like, so that's the technical side. As far as the relationship that I build with patients, yeah, I mean, the relationship that I build with patients, I feel is a special relationship, right? Whether I'm doing locums or whether I was doing, the clinic practice as an employed doc. I think you just feel this sense of obligation, right? So there's not this sense of ownership in the sense, in the technical sense that I was talking about before. But there is this sense of obligation, right? That you are the one, like the buck stops with you with this patient. Like you have to know what is your best recommendation for this patient. You have to know, how to advocate for this patient. You have an obligation to this person.
We get all the positive stuff. Okay, we get all that stuff.
All the positive stuff.
Cookie cutter, essay writing stuff. So, for me, it's a little bit easier.
Why did you ask?
I don't know. I don't know. But for me, it's a bit easier because the patients that I see are on an emergent basis.
Yes.
And then they're in and out constantly, right? We fix, we move on. We fix and or we temporize, and then we move on. And we ship them off to somebody else who will have a longer type of relationship with them.
Right.
So kind of similar to emergency physicians.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're trauma surgeons, they're emergency physicians, but basically temporize and or fix and then get them to their final place. But
I will say this, and I know you've experienced this as well, is when you've had a patient and it's like a difficult case or an interesting case or something that you're really, really worried about this person and you're off duty.
Oh, I'll be calling.
Call back.
Let's go. What'd you do with my patient?
Yeah.
Yo, how they
Call
doing?
back.
Are they
Exactly.
all right? RB going?
Exactly.
Yep, absolutely.
I have definitely done that where I have called and I'm like, what did you do with my patient? What did you do? Like, I want to know, how is she doing? Did she recover? How's the baby? X, Y, and Z, right? So I've definitely done that where I've called and found out how the patient is doing.
There's some gratification there to see if like your plan is being continued because you're just like, okay, I know what,
right.
I'm doing the right thing.
Or did you get it right?
Or, so I think that's
right?
there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I always get that whenever I have like a really bad trauma patient that comes in right as I'm leaving, you want to make sure that like whatever you started is either being continued or at least you're on the right path of diagnosing or treating.
Yeah.
And that, there's not a drastic change in
exactly
from or departure from what you're doing. I agree with you there. So, but before we belabor this real quick, we got to let people know about the new episode drop though.
Okay.
Okay, because today, guys, on Tuesdays, we released episode 416 with Dr. Russell Ledet. Man, what can I say about this guy?
Whoop, whoop.
Dr. Russell Ledet, he is a
The
resident.
man.
Yeah, he's a resident.
Out in Indiana.
Yeah, he's a resident who's in a triple board certified.
You know him, Dr. Roca?
So he is going to be doing adult and child psychiatry, and I forget what the third one, adult, child, and adolescent. All three of those things are a separate board in essence. And he is, first of all, not many men that go into this specialty, but he's there, he's doing well, and he's known for a whole bunch of different things. The biggest one is, I think he's known for is the journey he took, which everybody knows him as going from a security guard at that hospital to being a doctor, not necessarily at that hospital, but literally saying, yo, I'm interested in what all the doctors are coming in to see. I may have escorted some of you doctors, from the parking lots to, certain parts of the hospital or even to your car.
Yeah.
And he's saying,
He's
hey,
like, now I need an escort.
in essence, yeah, like I want to be a doctor, and
Yeah.
he became a doctor.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is he was part of that group that took a picture in front of a plantation, I think in Louisiana.
Yes.
Took a picture. They had I think it was 15
15
African-American medical students who had their white coats on the plantation, taking a picture, letting people know that, listen, for y'all, this is where we're at right now. We stand on y'all shoulders. And it was a very powerful picture. It made it all through the news. And from that, he was able to parlay that into an organization that he created with other folks called 15 White Coats.
The 15 White Coats.
The 15 White Coats. So it's a really interesting episode that talks about his journey from being a security guard to, the long journey of becoming a medical student, graduating, getting into this residency, why he started the 15 White Coats, what's he working on now, the thought process of trying to, mentor medical students.
Yep.
And it's pre-meds, right?
Pre-meds.
Mentor pre-meds. A very good conversation to talk about, not just that, because sometimes you could get a little too foo-foo, but it's also like, dude, like, you a resident, and he's also a dad and a husband.
And husband, yep.
How are you managing that? You trying to finish residency and you're helping to run a nonprofit. Talk to us about like the delineation of like
duties.
How do you delegate and all that stuff?
Yeah.
So good conversation. Make sure you guys check that out.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially the pre-meds. If you're listening and you're just wondering, how in the world am I going to do it? Take a listen.
It's good. It's good.
Take a listen.
Yeah, he's talented.
Yeah.
Listen, let's kind of take it light for this next one. Let's talk about.
But you're moving the mic.
Oh yeah, that's true. I'm sorry. My bad.
How you a podcaster and you moving the mic?
My bad.
I don't get what just happened here.
So, 6 months since I've been working out. How about you? How many months?
Since November.
I'm doing too much.
Anyway, since November.
Yo, guys, I just want to know, how buffed is too buff for you?
No. Don't start that. Don't start that conversation, Nii. No. You saw talking about you want to be, what do you call that? Mr. Universe thing?
I didn't say all that.
Whatever.
All I'm saying is that I'm really excited. I'm excited about the consistency that I've been using with the app. I'm excited about the gains.
The future app.
Yeah, the future app. And they're not sponsoring this, but they should. But it's an app that I've been using that gives me all the workouts that I need to know. It's so easy to follow. I love it. And that's what I've been using. So I want to show people what I can do. So why don't you count how many push-ups I can do?
Right now?
Yeah, in a minute. Let's do it.
Okay, where are you doing these
I'm
push-ups?
doing it right here.
Can they see you?
Yes, they can see me. Watch out for a second.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. We changing it up on y'all. Let's see. You got a timer?
No.
Right there. You got to watch. Can they see right here? They can see right here.
See.
Can they see me right here?
Let's see. Yes, you can be seen. Hold on a second.
All right, let me know when I'm ready to go.
Oh, my God.
We'll bust this out,
You
yo.
didn't tell me you were doing this.
You don't need to know everything.
I do need to know this.
No, you don't.
Okay.
You got the timer?
In a minute?
All right, y'all. How many push-ups can I do in a minute? All right, let's see.
Okay.
You ready?
Hurry up.
And they got to be the right ones, right? All right.
Yes.
Can they see me?
Yes.
All right. Ready?
Can y'all see him? On your mark, get set, go. 1, 2, 3,
Count right, man.
4,
When I go up.
5, 6, I am, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Come on. You want to do it. 43, 44, 45. Keep going. 46. Almost done. 7 seconds. 47. Come on. 48. 49. Just shy of 50. Just shy of 50.
Look at that gun show. Look at that gun show. I'm a trauma surgeon. I shouldn't be talking about, but you know what I mean. We can use
Sound like an
metaphors.
ortho right now.
You could use metaphors right here.
Sound like an ortho. Okay, just shy of 50. Not bad.
And they were good form. That's the key.
No, first of all, they couldn't hear, but them elbows was cracking, yo.
Hey, yo, I thought that was the only one. Yo, shit. Yo, my elbows are... Let me get some conjointing up in this mug, yo. Damn.
Them elbows was cracking. What's happened?
Look at me sweating, yo.
Yeah.
This is real podding, yo. But I got a good pump. I got a good
Listen,
pump.
all I gotta say is you don't want an OB running your code.
Come on now.
You really don't.
Not gonna happen.
You
I'm in
really
that good
don't.
shape.
You don't want an OB running your code.
Oof.
Dr. Roca, Pedrito. Pedrito Roca, do you want an OB
Yo,
running
he's
your
not
code?
even on it. We don't even know if he's here anymore. What are you talking to him?
Now I'll ask him.
Move on, move on. Move on, guys. Come on. He's still talking like he's there. He's not there anymore. Move on.
He's not there.
So,
Dr. Haynes, Dr. Cooper, Dr. Haynes Cooper.
whew, man, I got to catch my breath for a second, man. Damn.
Oh, my goodness. All right.
All right, let's go to the next topic as I catch my breath.
Oh,
Oof, I feel like this should be like boys to men.
what does that mean? I don't get
It's
it.
so hard
Oh, Lord.
to say goodbye
Boy, here we go.
to yesterday.
Okay.
Yo,
Are you
it's
cry-
gone, yo. The Tesla got to go back, y'all.
Yeah. So 2 years ago, we got
Yeah,
a
Tesla's
Tesla.
going back. It's end of the lease.
Well, technically,
Tesla's gotta
we
go back.
didn't get a Tesla. Our company got a Tesla.
Oh, we got it, man. Can I just tell the story?
Tell the story.
Dang, man. You doing too
you
much.
out of breath.
You doing too much.
I fill in. You out of breath.
But yeah, y'all.
2 years ago, we got a Tesla.
Hey, you free to do push-ups if you can.
Nope. I didn't listen.
Try to get to 3
Listen,
and not breathe too hard.
Listen.
Yeah, okay.
I ain't the one gonna make
Okay.
make a fool out of myself.
I don't think I did though. So.
I said I'm not gonna make a fool out of
Okay.
myself.
All right. Well,
Okay.
y'all, the Tesla is going back in the next couple of days. Our company leased the Tesla. We made it a tax write-off. I forget what code it is. Well, if you guys are watching this on YouTube or whatever you guys are watching it on video, we'll put on the section code, whatever it is. But basically, there's a provision where you can write off a vehicle if you use it for business-only purposes, which is what I did 2 years ago. I got a Tesla Model Y, which I love, performance version. And I got a basically a 30,000 lease over 2 years, 30,000 mile lease divided by 2 over 2 years.
Yeah.
And it was a good experience. It was a very interesting experience. First of all, purchasing or looking for the car, purchasing the car, or at least putting all the payments, doing everything through an app, receiving the car, remember? Mm-hmm. And then, just using it for the last 2 years for business purposes. It was very interesting. Very interesting. I think I'm going to make a separate episode about like all my thoughts about it. But part of me is ready to go back to a gas car. And another part of me is like, if I was to do it again, would I go back to a gas car?
If you were to do what again?
If I was to lease again.
Oh, okay. If
If it's to lease again.
Okay.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, like having a hybrid car, I think to me is the best of both worlds. Because I just think from an electric EV standpoint, the best way I describe it is it's like going from a Star Trek phone, right? Them flip phones.
Yeah.
To like an iPhone 4 or like an iPhone 5.
Right.
Where like, it's a big ass jump to go. Like that's a big jump in
Right.
terms of technology.
Right.
Right? Like having apps on your phone, texting so easily, all those different things, having a web browser on your phone, that makes it super easy to do, but it's an iPhone 4.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's an iPhone 5. Like we're now at like iPhone 15. So like there's so much technological advances that have occurred from the 4 to where we are right now. And that's kind of how I felt. I felt like this is a great change. Like this is amazing. It's great, but then you can just see like, first of all, the build quality is just, it's not up to par with a regular car. Every time I was driving and I hit bumps, you always hear something kind of just, you know, whether it's the seats not like, I don't know if they're not bolted all the way in, or the windows.
That's scary.
The windows are just like...
Not the seat's not bolted all the way in. Next you know, you freaking breaking, your seat is going out the window.
Well, you never have that big of an issue, but there's been people who've been saying like, like the panels, like, right? Like you see how like you'll have the side of the car and how the door closes. Like they'll say like there's a gap. You know the gap that is when you open the door and then you close the door and it seems like a seamless thing. Like people say like in some of their cars, their Teslas, like that gets wider and wider over time.
Oh my God.
Or like the hood of the car doesn't close all the way.
Oh my God.
So even when we did an inspection on our car.
Yeah, we did.
We had an issue with it. The guy had like, oh yeah, let me just pop this right in. I'm like,
yeah. It's like,
what kind of damn quality control is going on in this damn car?
It's been done already. Yeah. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that I did not like is the transit time.
Right.
It changes your commute time. So I'm 4.5 hours away by car. You better add on an hour to that.
Yeah.
Right. So what was a 4.5 hour drive is now a
6 hour.
No, it's like it's a 5.5 hour drive now because you got to charge for, depending on where you're going, you're probably gonna have to charge for another 35, 45 minutes. And then when you get to that place where I got to, I'm still at the end of my battery again. So then by the next morning, it's like, well, I got to get to work and I only have like 9% left. And then if it's cold, if you leave it overnight at 9%, then you might be at like 7%. And you're like, I don't even know if I have enough to get to work.
Right.
Then it's not only did you get to work at 7% or 9%, if I do this 12-hour shift, when I come back to this car, is it going to be at like 2% and I can't even start it? Right. And then how far away is a charging station? And it just came to a point after a while, I was like, I'm sick and tired of thinking about all this stuff with a car. Like the car is great, but I should not have to be thinking about all this stuff all the time. That's the stuff that drove me nuts.
Yeah.
Now, people who listen to it, they maybe just be like, well, if your hospital had a charging station, that's great. But if your hospital doesn't have a charging station, and I have to say that the majority of places don't have a charging station there. So that's frustrating. And if your hotel has one, then it's easy too, right? You just charge overnight, but I didn't. So I would have to plug it into like a regular outlet overnight. And that just charges 1% an hour.
Right.
Which gets you like 10 miles an hour, basically. Right. But it's going back.
Yeah, I mean, the kids are not going to be happy about that.
No, they're not. They're not going to be happy about that.
They're not going to be happy, especially
It's a big tablet. It's a tablet that drives to them.
Yeah, especially our older one. He loves that car. Loves that car.
Yeah.
But I think the Tesla is good for local driving.
Yes. I think EVs are really good for local.
Yeah.
Because you should have a charger at your house.
Right.
Hopefully a charger where you're going.
Right.
But
yeah, I think it's good for local driving. Once you start going long distance, it's just a little bit much, right? You start having to plan for all stuff. And let me tell you, one of the reasons that I was not a fan of taking that car with me to places.
So that's the one thing that you never drove it, or you rarely drove.
Well, I rarely drove it.
Why is that?
But I never drove it to work. Even though the whole point of getting the car was for our Locums work. But I actually never, not once in 2 years, did I ever drive that car to work.
And the reason why is?
The reason is because I spend so much time planning other things outside of my own life. I got 2 boys. I got to be planning for them constantly. Who needs this, for school? Who needs that for lunch? Who has this event going on? Who got whatever? I'm like, I don't need one more thing that I need to plan for. A car is not something I should have to plan for. If I run out of gas, I just say, oh, I'm out of gas. And I make sure I'm in Jersey, so I don't even have to get out of my car to pump my own gas. Thank God. And I get my gas. It takes me 5 minutes and then I'm done. I don't have to even think about it to go to work or even to come back from work. And for me, it was just another thing that I had to think about. What do they call it? They call it
range anxiety.
Range anxiety. Like, I didn't want to have that.
It's not for everybody. I'll tell you that. It's
Yeah.
not for everybody. And I think as soon as the big thing is people who live in apartments, right? Because if you live in an apartment, like
If you don't have a charging station,
where you put in your car to charge, that could be an issue. And then, so I think if you use it just for daily commuting, it's great.
yeah.
Because now you're talking about if you're using it daily, you probably have to charge maybe once a week, maybe.
Yeah.
Right?
And local.
Yeah.
Not like Manhattan local.
Yeah.
You driving from Brooklyn to Manhattan, because that
could be an issue too, because if you get stuck in
of
traffic
course
and you're
you
low,
get stuck in traffic, it's
it
done.
gets your charge. So
You done.
So I think in another episode I'll get into specifically, the issue there. But from a tax standpoint, it worked really well for us, right? Once again, like we didn't pay for it, our business paid for it, and it worked great. And we had to get insurance for it.
Right.
It was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
It was great, and it was sexy to drive. It looked nice. Everybody's looking at you like, "What's it like to drive a Tesla?" Like that intrigue standpoint was great.
Yeah, our younger one, he's every time he sees a Tesla, he goes, a Tesla, mommy.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to drive, but then I think you just have to be ready to take on a different way of life.
Yeah, which I was not ready.
Yeah, you got to be able to, because if you can't, then But there are other EVs out there. The problem is with the other EVs, they may be built better because they're built by the companies, like the bigger companies, like
actual
like Kia, Hyundai, and so
Right.
forth. The problem is their charging situation.
Yeah.
So I be honest, like Tesla's like the iPhone, right? Whereas like the ubiquity of everything, like you can go drive on a New Jersey Turnpike, and every stop that you go to is going to have a Tesla charger. That's great. The problem though is if there's only like 13 chargers. And more people are getting it, then that's the issue. You know what I'm saying? Then where are you going to charge your stuff at?
Right.
But then, but if you go to a part of town, or if you're going to a different like place geographically, like where I am, where there are not too many chargers, then that becomes an issue.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's going back, y'all. I don't know if we're going to get another one.
AMT 3546 says, that's what my kids say too. Haha. Yeah. A Tesla. All day long. All day long.
Should we do this last subject real quick?
Sure. We've been on for a long time, and I need to watch my House of the Dragon.
Oh, we got to keep it quick then. Let's keep it quick.
I got to watch my House of the Dragon.
All right, let's keep it quick because we're going to have to bounce real quick. But listen, y'all, Quincy Wilson. Quincy Wilson, he is a phenom, 16-year-old track and field phenom in the 400, just ran 44.5 at the Olympic trials. This boy, literally boy, is dope. Hopefully we continue to hear about him over the next 10 years. But he's an amazing athlete, and I used to run track, so I pay attention to these things. But I want to give a shout out to him for being 16 years old and finishing sixth in the finals of the Olympic trials. But I also want to give a shout out to his coach, Joe Lee, who's also, he probably doesn't remember, but he was a senior when I was a freshman at St. Benedict's Prep. So I just want to say shout out to him for building a great program at Bullis High School in Maryland, and for coaching his kid and doing a great job. So I just want to give a shout out to them for doing that. And
that boy is fast.
Yeah. And it's a lot of pressure for a 16-year-old. He's only a sophomore. Right?
My goodness.
He's only a sophomore, and he's running races and finishing these races and beating people like literally twice his age. Like it is amazing.
Yeah.
He's a big time phenom. You want to show his face real quick?
Yeah. If these ad blockers would just stop.
I know, man. I know. Yeah.
Let's see. Is this it? Yeah. Yeah. He is fast. So I was watching.
Just
you were
put
showing
pause on
me.
the site.
You were showing me where, oh, here.
Right there.
You were showing me a race that he ran, and that particular race happened to be the finals, which I was like, that is amazing, because in order to get to the finals, I mean, that means you are the best of the best.
Yeah.
And the running joke that we had was they showed the other contestants, right? The other runners. And I was like, man, these guys are old enough to be his father. And one of them was a 32-year-old man. Now, he was old enough to be his teenage father, but nonetheless, old enough to be his father. And I was like, this boy is running against men.
Yeah, and then when you look at the time,
right?
There's literally like
he beat somebody in that trial.
There's less than like 0.3 seconds that separates him versus the winner.
Yes.
And this person has 16 years of maturity in front of them.
Yes.
You know, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. But I think the key thing that I want to take away from this, he's just a boy.
Yes.
Right? He doesn't even have a driver's license. My question to you is, how young is young enough for just a prodigy? Right? Because like I can understand if he was 17.
Right.
Right. Not even I can understand, but he's 16.
Mm-hmm.
This would even make even more sense if he was like a senior, right? Because then he's going into college. You're like, yo, dude, it's your world and stuff. But as a 15-year-old who just turned 16, like he just finished up his sophomore year. How much is too much? Because he finished 6th, which means that he might be an alternate to go to Paris, France. But what if he had finished 3rd or 2nd and he became a qualifier to go to the Olympics? Would you let him go to the Olympics as a...
Well, at this point, if he runs it, if I let him run it, then yes.
The answer is yes.
Then the answer is yes, right? Because I would not have him run it if the thought process was, this is a little bit too much.
So what about before that? Let's say his season ended. He did his nationals. He won nationals for high school and so forth. And they're like, listen, you know what? Your boy just qualified for the U.S. Olympic trials, which means that if he wins, he may end up earning a spot on the Olympic team. He's going to go to Paris. What are your thoughts on that?
So, one thing you know about me is that I'm very, very, I'm very cognizant of how much pressure is put on children.
Yeah.
Right? And we see this in a lot of different
child actors.
Areas. Child actors. Child musicians. Even in academics, when you have geniuses. Right? Like these things can be a lot of pressure. And so the question is, just because a child can do something, should the child be allowed to do it in a time where they are still developing socially? Because the social development may not be there yet, right? Just because a child can finish college at the age of 12 does not mean that they are socially ready to do that.
That's what I was going to ask you. So if they academically can finish high school by 12 and go to college at 12, or you have these other geniuses who are like, yeah, I'm in med school by like 12.
Like a Doogie Howser.
Right. Like, so my thing is there's this tough balance of like, if you slow the kid down, then there's this like academic thirst for more.
I know.
Right? So there's this academic thirst for more, but then socially they're just not
not there
at that age.
Right. They're just not there emotionally.
Like, do you let the kid move in? Do you let the kid move into college at 12? Or
no. I don't think colleges.
They can't.
I don't know that colleges allow kids that young to stay in a dorm.
Okay.
Yeah, because even at 17, if you move into college at 17, you can move in.
I did.
Right, but you're technically still a minor.
Okay.
But
I'm gonna stop sharing, but keep going.
But yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. I think I would have to know this kid. You know, I would have to know this kid, and I will tell you this. I would have to talk with my kid about the off ramp, because here's one thing that
I see what you're saying.
Here's one thing that I think kids don't understand. Kids don't understand that all good things come to an end. This must end at some point. At one day, you might be the best in the world, but one day you're not going to be anymore, or you're not going to be able to do this thing anymore. And I think kids don't understand that, right? Kids think in perpetuity.
Yeah.
You know?
I think what I get concerned about is disappointment.
Right.
How do they handle disappointment,
Right.
particularly at this age, right?
Right.
Do they look at it as devastating, mainly because not just he may not have qualified, but he didn't qualify in front of
Everybody.
Like, when we was running in high school or, in college, like, there's just, they don't know who you are.
Right.
But this is something that
Everybody knows
everybody's
you. And
watching.
fame
Right.
is abnormal.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Right? Fame is abnormal. Most people are anonymous.
That's a lot of pressure for him.
It's a lot of pressure. And so
But his coach kept him grounded, I think.
I hope so.
And his parents kept him
I hope so. But I think that that's a discussion to have with children who are so advanced in, one particular area, to say, like, this might come to an end at some point, or to understand that this is not the defining thing. Like, this doesn't define you. I forgot which child actor. There was a child actor. I was watching something and they asked him, oh God, who was it? They asked him a question about being a child actor and then becoming an adult and his career not really taking off after that.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, God, I wish I remember who this was. But he said, I remember being a child actor. And I remember everybody just like, man, this kid is so cute. This kid is so this kid, like, he would just get so many compliments. And then it stopped.
Mm-hmm.
It all stopped. Whatever show that he was on, he wasn't on anymore. The show wasn't on anymore.
How did he handle it?
Or whatever. He didn't really go into that.
Okay.
But the thing that he said that stuck out to me was, he was like, man, what happened? Does nobody think I'm cute anymore? Does nobody think I'm good anymore? Does nobody think I'm worthy anymore? And so that, to me, it spoke volumes, because for me, I was like, he was getting validation from outside, from people he didn't even know, from people who didn't care anything about him except that he was on a show that would make them money. That's where he was getting his validation
or from people just walking by and
people he didn't know,
going screaming. Yeah,
right. People just seeing him and I love your show, and it's like, but you don't know me.
Right.
You don't know me. You love my character.
Well, that's
the character on the show.
That was his personality back. That was what he thought about later on, but not.
Well, that's what he said when he was going through it.
Really? Okay.
He felt almost like a loss, right? Like he lost himself. Like, what happened to me, right? Because this is me. When you are so young and you are experiencing something, right? This is why it's important that I'm going to veer off into, it's a tangent, but I think it's a poignant one.
And keep it short.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it short. So there was a post that someone, this woman, this Indian woman, actually, she had posted a reel, and it was about her being in an orphanage and then being adopted, right? And how, she's just so grateful to her parents, for doing X, Y, and Z, for taking care of her and blah, blah, blah. And now she's so successful. One of the comments was, why would your parents ever tell you that you're adopted? Like, why? Why would they ever tell you that?
I definitely would tell my kids that.
Right?
I think that's a big mistake.
Exactly.
Because they're going to find out.
So they're not only are they going to find out, but it's not even about finding out. It's about knowing who you are very early in life and understanding that this is just a part of your story. This is who you are.
Oh, that's the responsible.
Right?
My wife is always responsible with that. So, they need to know like the health history and shit, and they need to know all this stuff. I'm just talking about like having the kids hate your gut.
No, I'm not talking about health history. That's not what I'm talking about.
What are you talking about?
No, I'm talking about having a child understand who they are. Like understanding that we understand our stories from a very young age, right? When kids find out things about themselves when they are much, much older, or they find out things about their family that they didn't know much, much older, it is very devastating. It's extremely, extremely devastating. So I bring that back to the point of when you are very young and you're building your story, if you are a child actor, And acting is part of that story, and everybody's like,
Giving you adulation for acting.
adulations and this, that, and the other. You actually take on that persona of this is who I am. I am someone that is loved by everyone.
Yeah.
So when that stops, it's like, okay, well, who am I now? Like things like that. So anyway.
Hey, Quincy, yo, excellent job.
Yes.
You did great. You got a great coach. I saw the post interview of when he finished sixth.
Saying that because he went to the same high school as you.
That too. But he did a great interview. If I had a child prodigy, I would want him to see, because the things that he said publicly about Quincy was very like grounded in, listen, he lost, but he lost in front of all these different people. Let's just make sure he's all right. He wants to get his driver's license. Let's get his driver's license. People are asking questions about getting a going pro and all that stuff. You know, I mean, she all right, man. Listen,
Obi Darko says, "Does Dr. Renee have a degree in child psychology?"
she thinks she does. She thinks she does.
I almost minored in psychology in college. I think all I had to do was declare the minor, but I never declared it.
Well, listen, but you do, the point that you did say, or that you mentioned, that's a really good point, what you mentioned. I'm just going to say shout out to you, Quincy. That was a huge deal that you did.
Yeah.
And keep up the great work.
Amazing.
Keep up the great work. And if you decide to, chill out for a little bit, that's fine. Because the hard part's going to be what happens junior year, what happens senior year. That's where even more pressure comes in and stuff. But take it day by day, and you got a great coach. And Dr. Blue.
Dr. Blue, I was going to say, isn't that your friend?
Yeah, that's Dr. Blue, man. Dr. Blue says, I agree with that comment. Changing your self-identity at an older age can be very difficult. So he agrees with your point.
Yeah,
so
very difficult.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, man. So Dr. Blue, I hope you be listening to our podcast, and I hope you signed up to, subscribe to us on YouTube also, man. And Dr. Blue, call me, man. Call me. But listen, we've been going long enough.
Long. You talk
in this hot ass basement.
You talk a lot.
Yo, it is hot here. I talk a lot. Hey, yo, you over here thinking what do you call it?
Listen.
DSM-9 and shit.
I had things to say.
See, when you a kid and stuff, you know what I'm saying? You got to worry about what your identity. Anybody want to hear all that stuff,
when
man?
You brought up Dr. Russell Ledet and all this psychiatrist stuff. I just felt it.
Hey, y'all. We'll catch you guys on a future episode of Docs Outside the Box. Make sure you guys check out episode 416 with Dr. Russell Ledet. And let us know if you really like these lives. We'll do more of it, all right? We'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.